Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Stanley with Standley Handcrafted, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of the power burn test. Now, the last one that we did, you probably watched the video. If you haven't, I'll go ahead and try to link it up here. That video went through. We did these candles right here. It was an HTP 83, a 93, and a 104, and I let them go for about 5 hours just to see what they would do, and there actually wasn't a huge difference. Not as much as I thought there was going to be. So for part 2, we're gonna go ahead and fill these up. We're gonna do the exact same jars. We're gonna be using the 8-ounce jelly jar. The wax is 6006, and then the wicks are the HTP 83, 93, and the 104. But this time we're gonna be adding fragrance oil to these. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into this, and we're gonna let these burn.
All right, so I've got pink sugar here. We're gonna go ahead and add this to these jars right here. Again, HTP 83, HTP 93, and HTP 104. So we're gonna go ahead and pour this. All right, so we've got the HTP 83, the HTP 93, and the HTP 104. I've got all these cut down, maybe a little too short on the wicks, but we're gonna go ahead and light these. All right, so it is 9:29, just started those. So we're gonna check back, and I'm gonna try to let these go for about, well, the same as before, 5 hours, but I think I might try and let these go about 7 or 8. All right, so it's a little after 10:30. This is how they're looking so far. So we've got the 83, we've got the 93, spin that so you can see the edge, and then we've got the 104. Now the 83 looks pretty good after an hour, the 93 looks pretty good after an hour. This 104, I accidentally clipped that wick just a little bit too short, and I'm wondering if that's causing some issues, because that one should be further to the edge than it really is. I think once that burns down a little bit, it'll clear that up, but that one's a little bit lower than it should be. It's digging down into the wax a little bit more than it should. All right, so I'm interrupting this just for a little bit. As I was saying, the 104, I cut that one too short when I lit it, so it wasn't actually burning and it was starting to tunnel. So what I did is I went ahead and poured just a little bit of that wax out, and you can see the flame is back up where it should be. So to make this a fair power burn, I went ahead and poured some of that wax out. It should start to get to the rest of that, and then it should start burning normally, or normal. All right, so it's 11:30. It's maybe 10 minutes later from when I was just talking about pouring the wax out. It started to go out a little bit. It's only been 10 minutes, but I am seeing a difference. So there's the 83, the 93, and then the 104. I think by hour 3, the melt pool on this one should catch up to the rest of them. All right, so it's 12:30. Going on 3 hours. That's the 83, the 93, and that 104. The 104 still hasn't picked up those edges like I thought it was going to. It's definitely burning better, but I think I caused that by starting it with the wick too short. So 135, we're going on 4 hours. There's still wax built up around the side in all of them, even the 104. All right, so 522, and these are starting to look a little bit more like they should. The 83, 93, and the 104 all obviously still have full melt pools. The mushrooming is definitely back on the 83. Not happening too bad with the 93, and then the 104 is pretty bad too. And the melt pool on these, that 93 still has wax around the edge, but it's definitely getting it. And then of course the 104 is definitely deeper like I thought it would be, or definitely like I thought it should be.
All right, so I've got all three of these here. I let those go for probably about 8 hours. You can see in the beginning of the video that I messed up on the 104 just a little bit. It ended up a little bit of a difference at the end, and I think it would have made more of a difference if I hadn't messed up on it for that very first hour. And basically, if you're unfamiliar with that, what I did with the 104 is I cut it really short. So instead of cutting it at about 1/4 of an inch, I think I cut it about probably an eighth of an inch. It was really short. And I probably should have dug the wax down just a little bit, but I thought since it was a big enough wick that it wouldn't be a problem, and it turned out to be a problem. So cut it down a little bit too short. It didn't get a full melt pool, and by hour 1, you could see that it was actually starting to tunnel and it wasn't gonna fix itself. So what I went ahead and did was poured a little bit of the wax out to expose the wick just a little bit more, and then of course the flame got bigger and started to really create a full melt pool, and then it basically caught up with the rest of them. Now I let these go for a lot longer. I did these for probably about 8 hours. There was one point in the day when I blew, it's probably about 5 hours in, I blew it out for about 10 minutes because I actually had to leave the house, and then came back and lit them again, and they just came right back up. So it wasn't a huge deal, but I did blow them out for about 10 minutes. But in total, they are going for about 8 hours, and you can see the 83 and the 93 are going extremely well. The 93 for some reason, and I'm not exactly sure why, it may have been just the wick laying weird or something, but there's still a little bit of a wax buildup around the side, which it was getting. But the HTP and 93 were definitely burning a little bit slower, which is great for a candle like that. The 104, you could see towards the end, it still wasn't out of control or anything like that. Going up from that, like a 105, the 126, and definitely a 1212 would be really wild in that jar. The flame would be dancing a lot. It would probably create a very hot glass, and you'd probably get a lot of soot, which that was another surprising thing with this one, is there wasn't any soot in these, which is really nice. So even after 8 hours, there was no soot on any of the jars. So if you're going forward with this one, I would definitely probably go with the 83 because it made no difference going up to the 93, and it was burning really slow. And even with the power burn, this one going for 8 hours, that 83 still had a perfect melt pool. So same with the 93, they both still had perfect melt pools. So if you were to let those go again 10, 12, 14 hours, you probably wouldn't have a dangerous candle, which is the main reason that you want to do a power burn like this. And I think I'm going to do a part 3 on this one. I think I'm going to do a 73, a 93, and then possibly a 105 or a 126. I really want to highlight the differences between wicking down way too far and then wicking up way too high, and I think that'll give me the results that I'm kind of after, or kind of thought would happen with this one, and they didn't. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it didn't happen. I've been using the 104 in these jars for years and I've never had an issue. Even letting them go 4 and 5 hours, I've never had one get like really wild on me. Letting it go 7 and 8 hours, I was a little bit more worried. I didn't think it was going to be too bad, but that actually turned out a lot better. You can see at the 8 hour mark, you've probably got like a ½ an inch melt pool on the 104, which isn't bad. It's definitely not what you want because it's burning through the candle a little too fast, but it wasn't anything alarming. So again, all three of these turned out extremely well. It gives you a really good idea of what those wicks look like, and I made sure to go through the bag and look at each one of the wicks. And again, the 83 and the 93 are so similar in size that I almost question if they're even the same wicks. The packaging definitely said 83 and 93, so I know I grabbed what it was labeled as. But watching it burn, there's very little difference between those two. So instead of cutting this off at part 2, I'm gonna make a part 3. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I think I'm gonna do the 73, the 93, and probably the 126, just to get a really big wick in there just to see what it does. I wanna show the differences between, like I said before, the wick that's way too small and is probably gonna tunnel and then extinguish itself after a couple hours because the wax buildup is gonna be so big. And I think the 73 will do that. And then of course the 126 is so big that I think it's going to burn through the candle really fast. I'm going to have to watch that one a lot because once it gets to the 4, 5, and 6 hour mark, I think we're probably going to have probably more than a ½ inch melt pool. I think there's going to be a little bit more soot, and then I think that flame is going to be dancing quite a bit because it should be pretty big. So definitely pay attention to part 3 for that one. So that's pretty much it for this one. If you haven't seen, we went ahead and announced the 2020 dates for the cities and the workshops that we're going to be coming to. So the list in that one is LA, Dallas, Seattle, Columbus, Tampa, and New York. And then we've got Atlanta in September this year and Chicago in November this year. So definitely click the link down below if you want to be involved in one of the workshops. We're going to be covering a ton of good information in that one, a bunch of different waxes that a lot of people want to work with and they haven't worked with. We're going to be going over social media and business stuff. So definitely, if you want to know more, go ahead and click the link down below. TheInnovativeMaker.com has all the details for this stuff. And of course, you can follow me on any of the social media platforms that I've listed down below. Instagram, Facebook, I've got my website, the email address. If you want to send me questions, please send it through any one of those. I answer all my messages on every single one of those platforms. And definitely comment down below if you notice something in the video or if you want to see something in a future video. Please let me know and I'll go ahead and comment down below. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.